Hallelujah, dumisani simakathe. Mdumiseni ngekushaya licilongo, nimdumise ngehabu nangedigitali. Mdumiseni ngetigubhu nangekugitsa. Nimdumise ngetinzambo nangelithusi. Jesus. Sengiso lesi sikhathi, it's another season lapho khona sidumisa khona uNkulunkulu wemazulu. Hlanganyela nathi ekudumiseni uNkulunkulu lapho emakhwaya lasathuthukile nalawo lasafufuza aletha indumiso uNkulunkulu wemabandla. Hlanganyela nathi njalo ngemasonto ekuseni naseyigabence insimbi yesiphohlongo ekuseni kuphindze kube umsombuluko naseyigabence insimbi yelishumi ekuseni. We praise. To God be the glory.
Good morning, and welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. It is exactly 6 o'clock. It is the 12th of December 2023. How are you this morning?
Not sure how I'm doing, Lungelela. I was a big fan of Zahara, and we have gotten and received the news. It has been confirmed that she has passed on. And that has taken a knock on me, and certainly the rest of South Africa, and certainly the rest of the African continent, and maybe the world, because she was a multi-award winning artist, Lungelele. If we talk about songs that have become soundtrack to our, upbringing, Loliwe is one of them, and that song that she did with DJ Sbu. So it's really painful on us, as well as, and I can imagine for her family as well, and South Africa. Sonje kuveta ukuthi vele sivabhlungu kakhulu sithi mathuthu emndenini wakhe Zahara Lungelela. I think it's been confirmed ukuthi bekangilokugulako, and so she was taken to the hospital in a couple of days, but like ICU, liver complications, and that has been confirmed that so
it's quite sad ukuthi reports reveal ukuthi ushone ane fiance yakhe eceleni kwakhe. So the family is yet to release a statement ukuchaza kahle kahle ukuthi what happened to her, but according to reports kuyavela ukuthi she had liver complications, so she was admitted at hospital 2 weeks ago last night before 9 p.m. So we'll wait for that press statement ukuva kahle ukuthi ingabe funeral arrangements wona athini. But sisaqhubeka nje nalo hlelo lomuhla. We're going to have learners from Vulamasango High School who won 2 awards at the J Africa Company of the Year competition in Rwanda for Best CEO and Best Innovation. Labafundi ke bebamelele live leSwatini kulo mncintiswano. Inkampani yabo nje ibitwa ngokuthi Robot Technologies Pty Ltd, and they created a robotic bird which is a home security gadget that detects intruders and sends notifications to the homeowner's phone. And it also records visuals and audio. Kepha bona batachazela kabanti lomuhla ekseni nga 6:30 ukuthi ingabe bayicabanga kanjani mhlawumbe gadget eyalo luhlobo sijabe sinabo at 6:30.
And we'll also be joined by Kusile who is the Deputy Commissioner of Human Rights Administration and Integrity, just to speak on the Human Rights 75 initiative, which was observed globally on the 10th of December in theme, let's see, together, let's rejuvenate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, demonstrate how it can meet the needs of our time and advance its promise of freedom, equality and justice for all. The background of it all, rebirth often follows decimation, and so in the aftermath of World War II, which was on December 10 in 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, with everything happening in the world, geopolitically, with all the wars that we are currently experiencing in the world, if there was ever a moment to rekindle the hope of human rights for every person, it is now. And this moment will last throughout 2023 and beyond, a year of commemoration of one of the world's most groundbreaking international commitments. Now in 2023, we reinvigorate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, showing the ways it meets the needs of our time and advancing its promise of freedom, equality and justice for all. We'll speak on that with Kusile later on the program.
All right, it's 4 minutes after 6. Asibuye thamba imbili kumaphepha ntsapha. Hamba imbili, kanti kule hamba imbili, court sets aside Ramaphosa's recognition of King Misizulu. Kule leti hamba imbili, government says 4 elections losers are planning second wave unrest. They are angry, disgruntled, that are now dangerous political renegades, ngekusho kwa government spokesperson. Kule hamba imbili, civil servant busted with medical drugs and has been fired. Kulenyele hamba imbili, early pay for civil servants double for senators. Kanti ke kulenyele hamba imbili, 250,000 emalangeni for stockfields stolen since November.
Temidlalo Times of Eswatini this Tuesday morning, making the leading headline is the big derby that we saw over the past weekend, which raked over 200,000 emalangeni despite the weather conditions. On another one, Pro Mr. G quits Wesleyans. This one speaks to the story of Manzini Wanderers vibrant public relations officer Mduduzi, Mr. G Gininza, who has reportedly left the league strugglers. On another one, Girona stand Barca and take La Liga lead, the Spanish La Liga.
Leading headlines on the Eswatini Observer this Tuesday. Cabinet Subcommittee says drugs coming end of January, expresses gratitude to Finance Minister for assuring budget availability, and also reveals that installation of CMS tracking devices camera at 80%. Kuletingele hamba imbili, 4 men plotting against state. Kanti kulenyele hamba imbili, public drinking fine now 1,000 emalangeni. Kanti lesa sithombe seSwatini choirs lapho bawine khona umncintiswano.
Temidlalo Eswatini Observer this Tuesday morning, the leading headline, Big Derby rakes over 150,000 emalangeni, and they are smiling all the way to the bank after making that bank. On another one, technical director to emulate Japanese approach in achieving excellence. This one speaks to Eswatini Football Association's technical director, Mr. Pegisisa Mkonda, who is seen on that photo there with other officials while undergoing the new FIFA Technical Leadership Diploma in Japan. He plans to bring their approach to achieve excellence in the football front. And the last leading headline, 3 companies target Momo Cup slot.
All right, so that's what Eswatini Daily News. Leti hamba imbili, government uncovers unrest plot. Kulenyele hamba imbili, King Mswati did not buy Ferraris for Emazinyane. Leti hamba imbili, United Holdings calls out first pick on lies.
Mr. G quits Wanderers to make the leading headline. Kutemidlalo ku Eswatini Daily News, and it is Public Relations Officer Mduduzi, Mr. G Gininza, who has stepped down, citing unworkable conditions at the troubled tone and relegation threatened hub side. birds net over 90,000 emalangeni from Derby is the second leading headline. And the last one, Mokoena takes blame for Sundown's CL slip-up.
All right, that's it for your newspaper headlines. It's 9 minutes after 6. Let's take a break. Spin it in Eswatini.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sidimisele kusakata tindzaba letentiya ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama lacosheme letitsembekile letitsintsa tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki tetemphilo tekulima tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letichamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Sikomukela lihlelweni sethabele nathi tindzaba liphini landvonankulu uthulisile dladla licela sive ekutheni sibambisa hulumende kusita sive semaswati lesitsindzekile ngenxa yesiphepho lesihlasele live evikini leliphelile ngalesihlanu. Ngase liphini landvonankulu lithi isimo sibi kakhulu njengoba ke kunemaswati latsindzekile ledelutho.
Vikini leliphelile ngalesihlanu live laseswatini lihlaselwe siphepho lesihambisana nesangcotfo lesishiye takhiwo timotolo netilimo kulimele kametima. Liphini landvonankulu uthulisile dladla licela kubambisana kwemaswati kulesimo njengoma kulamanye emakhaya latsindzekile simo sibi.
Lokho kubambisana bengicela ke nekusho kwekuthi akhona ke maswati le kusukela uma eva lombiko abona kumedia ukuthi kwendekene lamanye athi cela kunikela ngemathayela labanye bathi sifuna ukufika khona sibone ukuthi singasita kuphi nyalo nje NDMA ucoordinator konke lokho umoya lomuhle lo emaswatini uthi ngamunye wethu masivelelwe sehlakala singahlali back sithi uhulumende utakwenda kepha uma sibambisana ukhombisa iunity. So bengingacela nje la ngoba thina sicashwe nglabantu laba lebalinyalele noma nje sengiloyo khokha lithayela linye uthenga lithayela linye kutakwakha incumbi yemathayela sikhona ukuthi laba lokungavuthi lutho hulumende ke so uyakhona ke naye kungeda ngoba lo monakalo awukho emathayeleni kuphela lo mnyaka ngathi mina ngawuthenga iglass.
Ngekusho kwembiko libandla leliphunga tehlakalo iNational Disaster Management Agency NDMA emaswati latsindzekile angetulu kwetinkhulungwane letisihlanu kanti lelibandla laka NDMA ngekubambisana netinhlangano letahlukene kubheke ukuthi lichubeke nekuhambela emaswati latsindzekile. Etindzabeni teEswatini TV kubika Samkelsiwe Khoza nginasimuva Shongwe kamanzini.
Asike ngalokunye liphini landvonankulu uthulisile dladla lithi libandla lenkhundla linemsebenzi wekuqinisekisa inhlala kahle yesive emimangweni kakhulukati bantvana kanye nentfutfuko yelive. Liphini landvonankulu belikhuluma emhlanganweni wekufundzisa bobuchopho netindvuna tetinkhundla tesifundza sakamanzini kanti ke lo mhlangano bongenelwe na indvuna yalelitiko Sikhumbuzo Dlamini.
Kwato belibambe isigaba sekucala semhlangano kufundisa tindvuna tetinkhundla nabobuchopho besifundza sakamanzini ngekusebenta kwalelitiko. Liphini landvunankulu uThulisile Dladla ngesikhathi livula lo mhlangano lithi libandla lenkundla linemsebenzi lomkhulu eveni wokuthuthukisa live nekuqinisekisa inhlalakahle yalo lonke eliswati emimangweni ikakhulukati bantfwana.
Njalo kusiphokophele ukuthi le live leli wonke umuntu abese ezingeni lelisetulu aphila kamnanzi. Uma ngibuka nako ngiyekela le live litawufika kanjani lapha. Banyenti bantfwana teenage pregnancy iledulu. Namuhla ke ngibeka licala thine sonke. Ungaba bucopho, ungaba indvuna yenkundla, ungaba ngu-MP, ungaba ngu-minister, ungaba ngubabe lonjanjani emangweni. Asikubambeni sonke kanye sikwekhude. Siphindze futhi labantwana sibadvonse. Sithi masiya enkundleni sifike ukuthi i-program of action yethu nayo lenzawo yethu la imiphakathi lengaka sesinebantwana laba drop out of school leni.
Indvuna yetiko letinkundla Sikhumbuzo Dlamini ithi ngikubambisana lusito lwahulumende litawufika ngendlela lefanele esiveni.
I-first world ayisiko khashana idude kakhulu. Kulokuthi wonke umuntu ufuna ukwenza okufanele. Sizasethembise ke mhlo DPM lokuthi nathi silitiko letinkundla sitakwenza konke vele kusemandleni lokuthi le first world bayibone bayiphathe labantu lamaswati la sithume umsebenzi atayiphatha le first world ngokuthi sitimisele lama services labafuna kwelabantu efike ngesikhathi lekube abedude nabo.
Umphathi wesifundza sakamanzini umfana Nkosi Gija naye ukhutsate ekubambisana kwelibandla lenkundla kude live lithuthuke liye embili.
Tinkundla tisho bunye. Tinkundla tisho kudevelop sikanye kungasali namunye ngemuva. Tinkundla tisho ukuthi sibambane silekelelane.
Lo mhlangano utawephetha ngalesibili kanzi bongelwe tinkundla letimfica letingaphansi kwesifundza sakamanzini. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkelswe Khoza nasimuva Shongwe kamanzini.
Vela South Korea selinikelele inyuvesi yelakuleli University of Eswatini ngema-laptops lalikhulu nemashumi layimfica 190 kanye nema-printers langemashumi lamathathu nesihlanu. Ngazike yemukela le mishina indvuna yetemfundvo owenqumalo ithi le mishina itawusita kakhulu njengoba inyuvesi seyisebenzisa netindlela tebuciko isafundzisa abafunzi.
Longcusele live le South Korea kuleli Wansuk Choi uthi bayaconza kwekuthi debcwephesha tidlala indzima lenkulu ekutfutfukiseni temfundvo kungako banikele ngalama laptops kanye nemishina yekuprinter.
I'm very pleased to note that the relations between our two countries have continued to deepen since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1968.
Indvuna yetangaphandle Pholile Shakhantu ithi tebuciko netebcwephesha sengito letidlala indzima lenkulu ekutfutfukiseni iminotfo yemave yemhlaba. Ukhutsata inyuvesi kutsi isebentise le mishina kutfutfukisa tifundvo tebuciko netebcwephesha iphindze ifundzisele kwekuthi bafundzi bakhe emabhizinisi bakhone kutakhela ematfuba yemisebenti.
Eswatini would like to appreciate the kind gesture that we continuously receive from you, and we acknowledge the critical and important role that ICT plays in the attainment of its political and socio-economic development.
Indvuna yetemfundvo owenqumalo ithi live le South Korea likhombise bungani lobucotfo kule Eswatini ngekunikela le mishina yetebuciko.
Siyethemba lokuthi lama laptops atawu improve kufundza kwebafundzi lapha e-university.
Ngekusho kwelisekela lemphathi wenyuvesi yakuleli Professor Justice Thwala, le nyuvesi inebafundzi labang 8,000 kanti bongcondvomshina labakhona bang 2022. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nelson Dlangamandla kunavuma Inkosi Nzinisa kumathapha.
Indvuna yetemabhizinisi manqoba khumalo sayitvumise hulumende weShayina sihlenge se-Taiwan ngekubambisa live laseswatini ekutfutfukiseni tinhlangosi letahlukene telive laseswatini kutentfutfuko. Anzike indvuna abe ikhuluma ye-Royal Villas ngemsombuluko uma ivala sigaba sekucala seluhlelo lwekucala nje noma ke lwakhutsala mfati lolisekelwe nguhulumende weShayina sihlenge se-Taiwan.
Lolu hlelo lwasukumiswa ngenyanga November 2020 bafunze ngekuphathwa kwetimali kuqala nekuchuba ibhizinisi kulokunye. Ikhuluma nayivala sigaba sokuqala seKusala Mfati, indvuna yetemabhizinisi manqoba khumalo yithi ngenxa yalolu hlelo bomake kakhulu kade basemakhaya sekunenge lesebakhona kukwenda kufaka ekhatsi kuchuba ibhizinisi nekubhadala umthelo.
Bayenza tinkulungwane letisithupha 6,000 lokho kasikuthatheni phasi kusho ukuthi kunetimpilo tinkulungwane letisithupha lesetigucukile ngalomsebenzi loyenziwe Kusala Mfati nekubanjiswa nguhulumende wase-Taiwan. Kwesibili ke sebaphindze babasita labo make ukuthi bakhethe inhlangano. Sikhuluma nje senhlangano letilishumi nakune lesevele tibhalisiwe kwekuthi sevele tiyasebenza taphinde taniketwa ne-training noma kuqeqeshela i-codec lapho khona kuyi-college lethu lahulumende lapho khona siqeqesha tinhlangano tekonga nekubolekisa. Kuyasijabulisa ke ukuthi futhi kwesithathu ngale luhlelo lelu bomake bafundzisiwe nekusebenzisa tabangcondo mshini kwenta ibhizinisi yabo.
Lo nxusele le-Taiwan kuleli Jeremy Liang uthi batimisele ukuthuthukisa besifazane kude baphile impilo lekahle.
The main object of the project was to empower the women.
Mbasata uthi bafise kutsi besifazane bakwati kuthola lwati nekucondzisisa tindzaba tetimali. Uthi sikhwama sabo sitawuthuthukisa emabhizinisi sakhe emathuba emisebenzi sithuthukise nemakhaya kuboke bomake eveni laseswatini. Kulo mhlangano ke induna iphindze yasukumisa ngalokusemthethweni lolunye luhlelo lolatiwa ngaSubatha Make. Etindzabeni ngengiyane Msibi nasimuva Shongwe sisezulwini.
Mengameli wetimphunga Lindiwe Dlamini sawumemetele bosihlalo nemasekela bosihlalo bemakomiti labo ketingoni letahlukene tekusebenta kwendlu pheceleti sessional committee. Ngazike timphunga tiphindze takhetsa nabosihlalo bemakomiti labo kekusebenta kwematiko ahulumende khona endlini yetimphunga.
Timphunga tichubeke nemsebenzi wendlu lehloniphekile ngemsombuluko lapho khona mengameli wetimphunga imphunga Lindiwe Dlamini amemetele endlini bosihlalo bemakomiti lababuke kusebenta kwetingoni letahlukene tendlu pheceleti sessional committees.
Tingundla administration and development imphunga ombane wosicokoma. Bese kulo committee tuni takhumbula ukuthi imphunga babe shift mathe uwavakashela onke lawo makomiti. Bese committee 3 we now have Ministry of Education and Training imphunga babeship Jozani Mazia, and then the Ministry of Public Service imphunga babeship Zabeni Shiba, the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs imphunga Elmosa Mvoti, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation imphunga Lizinkosi, the Ministry of Defense, yes, Ministry of Defense imphunga Skombeni Dlamini. The Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, imbonga umbane ngosi Ngenge Dlamini. Bese kuthi litiko la agriculture, imbonga Fezeka Dlamini. Again, we have a member who loba onke lama committee imbonga engositati lama vimbe. Ngathi ngilawo timbonga ema committees, committee 1, 2 and 3 less now.
Timbunga tichubekile nemsebenzi wendlu elisuku lapho khona tibese tikhetsa bosihlalo bemakomiti labuke kusebenta kwamatiko ahulumende etimphungeni pheceleti portfolio committees. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkelsuye Khoza kusephalamende.
Hulumende netinhlangothi letahlukene letilwana kuhlukubetana ngetebulili titsike emalanga lalishumi nesithupha ikulwana kokuhlukubetana ngetebulili 16 days of activism against gender-based violence abe imphumelelo njengoba ke sive sithi imvanzakanyile sakubika kuhlukubetana nato tinhlangano.
The 16 days of activism against gender-based violence started on the 25th last month till the 10th this month. Tinhlangano nahulumende ke bekuphunywe ngetinkhani baphume umkhankaso kuhanjiswa livangeli lelithi kahleni ngekubulalana nekulimatana lebese kubonakala kwanza kunalive laseSwatini.
so nyalo tinkapane emaphepha emaphoyisa cishe nje inqumbi yebantfu bebanemikhankaso lecondzene nawo lamalanga lali-16
nasihlose kukucedza kuhlukubeta siyakucedza ngokuthi sonke sisukumile tonke tinkhalo lapho sikhona khona esisebenta khona
ama cases abe ngu974 lakabikiwe kulo 974 sikhanze ema cases la kangu424 labe kabikwe bobabe ngisinje bamvu labadvuna shothi nje bobabe ikakhulu labo lesi sibaconsiderisha ukuthi basesigabeni lesisikhulini then kwasise kuba ke na 451 loqhamuke kibo lababa besifazane lababike kona kuhlukubeteka ngitindlela letahlukahlukene kulo tinhlobo ke tekuhlukubetana lesikhuluma ngato letibikiwe nje lana bekukhona kushayana lesikubone tinombolo takhona ku18 kubomake labe bashayiwe ku17 kubobabe labashayiwe
kuvunyelwene-ke ngavilinye ukuthi asale kuba ngumkhankaso wa onke malanga hhayi ngalesikhathi lesi nje kuphela endzabeni tanamuhla ngingiyani Msibi ngisembabane.
Bantfu bemphakathi wasezikhotheni bathi sebatawukhona kungenela imihlangano kamelula kulandzela kwakhiwa kwelihola lemmango kanti ke lesive sithi nemicimbi sebatawukhona kuyibambela dvutane kanti ke phambilini bekubita bayengcenye kude bakhone kuhlanganyela kahle.
Ihlatsi tivakashele tindlebe kubantu bemphakathi wasezikhotheni ngaphansi senkundla yaseshiselweni 1 ngesakhiwo selihola lemango lesakhiwe nguhulumende ngaphansi seliphiko laka microproject. Sikhulumisene nengcenye yabantu balomphakathi labavete ukuthi besinganani sidingo saleli hola.
Intuthuko itaba inengi lamphakathini nasibona leli hola siyabona kokuthi kunengi lesingakwenda si bantu bakhona lapha ezikhotheni siuthakasele kakhulu kungumsebenzi lomuhle kakhulu ngoba sibukile nje ukuthi kungaba kunengi lekungenteka inkonzo lesiye sibenato khona lamphakathi sengeke sisanethwa imvula sesitawuvele sichubeke khona la holeni lethu
phambilini besihlanganyela phansi kwetihlahla nangabe sibitwe nguMvlo Mtsala lapha yana lokho angababeshifu nyalo sesiyakhona ukuthi noma ngabe lina noma ngabe liyashisa sikhona ukuchubeka sive ukuthi kungabe labadzala bathini
vele lokuningi besihlupheka kulesinye isikhathi noma kunemicimbi ufuna siyorent amahola out there but nyalo siva siyajabula emoyeni yethu ukuthi lihola lethu selikhona abantu abafika toshadela khona dinengi imvo lesetokwendeka lapha eholeni.
Kwakhiwa kwaleli hola kuphele kulomnyaka kanti lesakhiwo sesitawuvulwa ngalokusemthethweni kuthi lo mango songasisebenzisa. Lobika ke tindzabeni Eswatini TV nguthando kuhle Mdluli ngisezikhotheni.
Sivesa sezulwini sesiniketwe lwati ngekutivikela ebucaleni lobenteka ngetindlela tebuchwephesha netebuciko lobonakala bukhula ngelizinga lelisetulu kuleli. Azike umphathi waleli dolobha Mathokoza Shongwe uthi uma sive silahlekelwa imali ngalendlela lokhu kungathi ngabeta nemnotho welive.
Sifuna ukuqhushisana ngetindzaba tekuphepha edolobheni tigabeni letihlukahlukene ukuthi uphepha njani mangabe umuntu longena ebhange losebenzisa libhange uphepha njani siyathi isikhathi sabo social media into lokufanele utinake ukuthi ungatendi ku social media letingenteka bese setiveta timbobo tikhala la ukhanze ukuthi labagangako bangabe sesebathi sebenzisa.
Nokuthula Hlophe lobukela uhlangothi lwetebuciko ebandleni lelengamele tekuchumana kuleli Eswatini Communications Commission uthi sive asinake indlela lesisebenzisa ngayo tebuciko.
We try to raise awareness so that umuntu atowati ukuthi uma asasebenzisa the computer or mobile applications yini timvo langatiphephisa ngakho. Sizame nekufundzisa nekukhutsata ukuthi parents it's very important ukuthi akahlole ukuthi bantu ababo bakhuluma nabo bani la kulama social media platforms.
Sakhamuti sasezulwini Muzi Masuku sithi kumgcokwa kuba nelwati lolwanele ngalolu hlobo lwebucala.
Sisesenayo le armed patrol isisita kanganani the level to which they're actually effective in assisting us ekuthenini sikwati to curb crime kuleto gaba letivela kuyo.
Kuvikela bucala lobendeka ngetepciko litiko letekwatisa lishaye umthetho i-Computer and Cybercrime Act of 2022 lochaza kwekuthi umuntu lophambana nalo mthetho angahlawuliswa imali lefikako ku-10 million emalangeni kuye ngekuthi nguliphi licala lalendile. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Nelson Dlangamandla kunavuma inkosi inzinisa ezulwini.
Mengameli wenhlangano yemidlalo we-chess kuleli Dumisane Msibi uthi imidlalo ye-Eswatini open imqokwa ngoba inika lithuba abadlali bakuleli ukuthi baqhutselane nalamanye emave. Msibi bekakhuluma nakuchubeka le midlalo lebeyingenelwe ngilamanye emave ledlalelwe kaManzini.
Inhlangano ye-chess kuleli kulempelasonto ke bayidlalisa umdlalo wayo wekugcina kulomnyaka. Lo mdlalo ke uye ube ngilomkhulu njengaloku uye ungenele badlali balamanye emave. Lo nyaka emave labekhona ke afaka ekhathi Mozambique, South Africa, Lesotho kanye neBotswana. Mengameli walenhlangano yakuleli Dumisane Msibi uyachaza ngobumqoka balena mdlalo.
Lo mdlalo lona ke siba nawo wonke iminyaka cishe ekupheleni kweminyaka. Imqoka ke lemidlalo lona ngilapho khona sizama khona ukuthi si-expose abadlali bethu ukuthi babe ne-international experience. So far kungqono lo nyaka kusadlaleka sinabo nje abadlali bethu lecishe badlala kulama top boards sethemba ukuthi cishe kutawuhamba kahle.
Thapelo Molefe waseBotswana uthi kuhlanganyela nemave kuleli kutosita kakhulu kulomdlalo eveni njengaloku kunenginabo labakufundzako.
The Kingdom of Eswatini is still a growing major force in terms of as far as chess is concerned. So them managing to bring different nationalities to the country impacts positively because there are kids being coached by these gentlemen and all these schools they've developed chess into. So these kids see this kind of setups, they get inspired and it really helps in growing chess in the country.
Lenhlangano yakuleli ithi kulomnyaka bebanato ke tinkinga kepha ke bajabula ngendlela labasebente ngayo. Lebekela umsakazo weSwatini TV temdlalo ngiphathiswe Msibi kaManzini.
Kalomuhle tingakho tindzaba teSwati ake sibuke isimo selitulo sibese sibahlola emakethe sitabuya sichubeke nehlelo.
We'll be joined by a learner from Vulamasango School who won 2 awards at the J Africa Campaign of the Year competition in Rwanda for Best CEO and Best Innovation. Abafundi ke bebamelele live leSwatini kulo mncintiswano ngapani yabo nje ibitwa ngokuthi Robot Technologies Pty Ltd, and they created a robotic bird which is a home security gadget that detects intruders and also sends notifications notifications to the homeowner's phone. Saying joining with CEO wayo inkampani Lusito Xuba lotasichazela kabanti nje ngayo le bird ukuthi ingabe vele isebenza kanjani and how did they come about this innovation. Sakuvusela Lusito, thank you for joining us this morning. Ngubonile on the presentation yakho lapha eRwanda and you perfect wayichaza kahle le nyoni yeni le innovation yeni ukuthi isebenza kanjani. How did you come about this innovations? Because siyado ukuthi imnciniswana kaJA uhlala ugcizelela vele indaba yokuthi be innovative, be creative. How did you come about it with your team?
So we came about with this project through the political unrest that the country was facing. So sabona ukuthi it's be lot of homes, businesses were vandalized and begne kshisa and nemaphoyisa were killed inside of their homesteads. So we came up with the solution to this problem. How about instead, because lo bekwendeka abakhona ma-CCTV footage, so we came about with the solution. How about we create a security system that is invisible towards the intruder? So we came about the robotic bird.
Okay, so how does it work? I'm just hoping that we will see it when we interview facilitator Tishala Weno, just right after you at us but when I just
so it works like this. So it once it has a camera and it takes a video of the intruder. And once it detects the motion, it's going to send a notification straight to your phone. Let's say you're on a business trip, you're not home, or except Sugu, it's going to send a notification that there's an intruder alert. So kanjalo you'll be able to know Bani, Wagupi, and if you're not around, you can like call the local police. Can they go and check around in your area to make sure my property is safe?
Okay. Also, when you were doing a presentation, I also noted Guguti, you did test it on various homesteads and also businesses. Tell us more about that.
So we had other people, some teachers and other businesses around Liengo who were interested in our product, and they some even bought them. And others we ended up Sawa Testagibo, and they proved to be working.
Okay. So how many did you create? Do you still have some in store?
Yeah, some we have fully finished product, and some are still under production, and some basa or delay.
Oh, great!
So the numbers, and we can't like say precise with the numbers.
Okay, so I know Guguti, amongst your team, there's your marketing manager, there's your sales, and there's your finance. Mhlambe, you would not have much information on this, but nje mhlambe kusvetela nje profitability Guguti, do you see nane nje mhlambe strategy senu niyabona ukuthi vele mhlambe business yenu lena itanakhela imali leneng?
Honestly speaking, I feel like the business learner could be much more than successful, and it can grow in terms of development, because we started off with the product that was like simple, but the more we're getting more orders, is the more we like advancing in terms of the technology, because we started off with a camera lebe simple, but now we're going for a smaller and much more expensive one, so you could say that we're growing in terms of business-wise, in terms of being innovative as well.
Okay, so what are your plans and just sitting in strategy saying going forward with your business? I know that you're still in school, but will you get support from a JA after completing school, and nifisa kufika up in a business here?
We in a business here to honestly we're Kusile gutike. This is not the end of it. And besifisa ukuthi iqhubeke ikhule, and siqhubeke ukuthi we merge with other businesses, other security companies, and nato basame kusita in terms of ukuthi sikhule, or maybe do a collaboration with them.
Okay. And also you received 2 awards during the competition, Best Innovation and Best CEO. How did that make you feel?
Receiving the award of Best CEO, it's a lifetime achievement, because it gave me like the whole idea with you know, you can get whatever you want, and anything is possible, because as the CEO, I had to be the one that had to make sure I get early and I leave late as the whole team, because I had to go that extra mile. So getting the award, I feel like it was more. I'm excited, and I could have never been even more excited than this.
Okay, I remember during your presentation, one of the judges asked you about challenges, you know, with the bird. Do you have any challenges? And even going further,
one of our customers' feedback was like the power of the battery, the duration of the battery. So we decided that the bird, instead of the 70 battery that took about 32, sometimes 36 hours, but we took it as the negative feedback as a point of improvement instead of a negative feedback. So Sazama we improve the littlest things, such as Lama battery. Now we're able to have a 74-hour battery, and some complain from our trips. So the storage say capacity, it's too small, so we try to go to get the storage capacity. But we make sure that we listen to our customers' feedback and we try to improve from what our customers are telling us.
Okay, so what's the ideal place to place your bird? Is it on the roof? Advise a customer and
so if you have like a garden, you can use a bigger corner. If you have like inside of a household, you can buy a corner, but it has to be somewhere that someone wouldn't suspect. Oh, there's a camera.
So, all right, okay. So, also on your presentation in Rwanda, you did talk about CSR projects that you guys are doing as a company. Tell us more about those.
So, for our CSR, for each and every unit that we produced, we make sure that we plant 2 trees. We get 2 trees and we plant them in different areas in the community. And we plant them in an area where they are affected with soil erosion. We planted in areas whereby the land is actually whereby it's erosion, but it's prone to happen to less erosion eventually. So we make sure that we plant them, and we also teach other kids about planting trees in terms of how is it helpful to the community in terms of face global change. So we try to teach that to our younger generation.
Okay, Grace, thank you so much, Lucita, for joining us, and congratulations, and thank you for representing Eswatini well at Rwanda. As mentioned, who will join us after the break. Stay with us.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Let me tell you about my crush. Ngenzane inhliziyo yami embi kwakho njengesidanga. It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the Kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
Asimile sinamukele ngo-15 minutes before 7 o'clock sichubeka nabo besikolo asevula masango labathola nje ama-awards lamabili emncintiswaneni we-JA Company of the Year. Sicela-ke ukukhulumisana na-CEO Lusito Xuba asichazela kabanti nje ngayo le nyoni nyalo. Sengijoyinwa nguthishela wabo Sibusiso Dlamini. So iphethe le nyoni lavedile Lusito ukuthi i-home security gadget CCTV footage kahle kahle. Siyabonga ngikhosi ukuthi benazi lonke ekseni and congratulations to your team and well done. Ukuthi ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kusaniwine kabili 2021 nanyalo you won Company of the Year Eswatini. Ngifuna nje sikhulume nje ngeteam yakho ukuthi ngiyathemba ukuthi bensolo nifake ama-hour nama-hour solo nisebenza le project le innovation lena ingabe vele mhlambe bekanjani nje kusemenisana neteam yakho, determination, commitment kanye nemfufo nje laba ufakile.
Asibonge kakhulu, sicela ngakubavusela ababukele emakhaya. Singasho ukuthi i-determination ibe inkulu kakhulu. Ngiyakhumbula nasicala ngikubafusha. Ngicala ngikubafusha because kuye kuthi nakucala umnyaka loyo nje unake inzabatakhe nalabafundi into yokubhizi ngetinto takhe nje akangeni. So ufuna uqale ngokuthi uba motivate ubachazele ukuthi yini lo JA ukuthi abasitangani because siyathi ukuthi junior achievement asabafundisa ngete amabhizinisi bese bathola certificate labangatisebenzisa sithi inkundleni ukuthi bakhona ukuthola lusito bo youth fund naletinye inhlangano. So ke ngilapho la sisicale khona vele sibakhuthaze ukuthi abayinjoyine lenhlangano bafunze. So saqala lapho ke sibagalela vele sibafusha ngoba evula amasango wonke umuntu uyayenda junior achievement kude ukuthi uyakhetha sakwenda nje vele kwaba iculture ukuthi wonke umfana uyamenda. So ezachubeka ke malanga ke babese sebayacala bayayithanza sengilakhona lapha senabo ke so yabavumela ukuthi balide ke bacabange ukuthi yini products labafuna kuyenda ezisihamba ke sichubeka na competition hayi bese tiyabuya la khona vele besiphuma ngabo 10 ebusuku at times kuphunywa ngabo 12 lesinye isikhathi ngicibela singayi nasesondweni. The determination beyinhle kakhulu kubona bona sekungibo labasidonsako and the other team ngola lama shareholders sekabakhuthata ukuthi ichubekane madoda.
So now products in front of us, I think uyichazile Lusito but nyalo sesiyabona mhlawumbe kusichazela nje kafishana nje usishengisa ukuthi lokwani iphile camera uyibeka kanjani uconnecta kanjani.
Okay, le product yabo labantwana lena sibita ngokuthi robotic bed. So isebenza njengelhazi yathi ukuthi nawo nelhazi ekhaya liyakutshela ukuthi kunebantu labakhona ngaphandle ngokuthi lento leyo umsindo leyo. So ke ngilakho nabacala khona ukuthi labanye bantwana lesinabo esikolweni bebeva ukuthi emakhaya bahlaselwe. So ke bangathi ukuthi kwenteke kanjani. So ke ngiko ke la ngikhathi la ngekhathi yagujwa ayinalutho lamathunjini. So ke yagujwa then kunema sensors la khona sinalena lesibeke labalenje mabombe kunema sensors la khona kunema cameras la khona kune wifi le khona. So uma ngabe uyibekile maybe ngephandle uyibekile ngekhathi endlini once ya detect emotion ivele bese seyikusendela alert ecingweni lakho wherever la ukhona. So once bese you respond kule alert lekusendela yona kungila khona bese sekukhombisa le footage ukuthi ubone ukuthi ngubani yodi ingomo noma ngoyitinja no whatsoever lokusuke kwenteka ngaleso sikhathi leso ngabe ebusuku lama cameras ayakhona ukuthi aphike
distance kuba ngilenganani
uyayisetha khona la ecingweni lakho ukuthi ufuna kuphike kangakanani because le intelligence lekhona uyakhona nokusho ukuthi ufuna iphike tilwane noma iphike everything lekhona lokuyisensako. So nala khona uyakhona ukuthi usethe le distance ukuthi ufuna kwenteka kangakanani. So aphinze bese ke sekusendela le alert so yakhona ukuthi ungenekela licingweni ke so yabuka ukuthi ngubani if you feel like ufuna press i-siren la ngekhathi kune siren ukuthi bese seyibanga umsindo omkhulu ukuthi imthuse lo muntu loyo noma ke le siren ufuna ukuthi ibe ngekhathi endlini so that angatokwati ukuthi yini lena le triggerishile noma le khombisile siyakwenda nalokho. And phinze futhi ke ine speaker la ngemuva ukuthi ke maybe umuntu lo madiko then so ngakhona ngalelicingo ukuthi ukhulume naye lo muntu ngalenyoni isebenze njenge-cellphone. Yes, ukuthi niphendulane ngala ngembili nikhulume niphendulane usho ukuthi ufunani ngakusitangani wherever la ukhona khona.
No innovation le great kakhulu. And also nje sifuna ukuva nje ngayo lo msebenzi wendako nje vula masango esikolweni lokuthi uchazile nje inkosi ukuthi vele seneyifakile le mentality ukuthi vele kumele baticalele amabhizinisi bayithanda ibhizinisi ingavele mhlambe nje kunisebenzela kanganani nje lokuthi vele abafundi benu sebayithanda le competition aka JA.
Kuyasebenzela siyathi ukuthi esikhatsini esiningi le statistics ayakhombisa ukuthi ukuganga kwabantu labasha esikhatsini esiningi kusuke kuhambelana nokuthi kunendlala lekhona emakhaya kusuke kuhambelana nepoverty. So ke ngiko ke space sesenda siciniseke ukuthi lo junior achievement abe must so that lo mfana angathi nakaphuma aphinza abuye, because sike sakubona eminyakeni lengemuva bebaphuma babuye. So uma senda research uyathola ukuthi le timo labaphila kito emakhaya tikabi. So ngiko lokugcina baganga labanye bagange hayi ngoba bafuna kuganga, ufuna kuganga tobuye level amasanga toladlile ambathe akhona ukubukela iTV because le madomini kwanza ukuthi kunema TV. So ke lo busweti ke vele bonengi kakhulu. So kungako ke senda lo le junior achievement ukuthi ibe must. So but lese sikubonile ukuthi baya benefit because uva nje sewushaya icingo noma sekakhona athi ese ngitocela ukuthi business plan lesasiyendile kulomnyaka loya ngicela icopy yayo because sengenda 1 2 3 ese uma ngifuna ukuphuma ngibhekelena singenda njani bahlale ke baphathi babuke ukuthi bangamsita kanjani. Lo munye edashi sasifunze ukuthi esikolweni ngicela ningisite ngalelo sito lalizingako sikubona ngaloko ukuthi vele bayabuya. And lokunye ke lesikubonile le management incumbi yayo bebaseTurkey because siyakhumbula ukuthi ivula masango sesimthathe CEO I think seku7 for the past 10 years. So lokuthi ke bese angathi lokuthi bese bayadonsana bona bodwa nyalo incumbi ke yabo sebase Taiwan cishe le management nje nala kakhulu lapho CEO sebayakhona ukuthi bodonsane bahambe baye kulamanye amave.
My well kodugcina nje ngikhoze mhlambe kukhona yini vula masango la kwendako kubasida labamfana ukuthi vele lama business abo aba sustainable ayachubeka and ama profits ayachubeka yasebenza.
Yes, isikolo siyasita kakhulu but ke noma sisita kakhulu khanza ukuthi site lama resources la enough ukuthi singakhona kubasita bonke labantwana. Uma ngakuthi awukhumbula nje ukuthi team ya this year le ma shareholders ang81. So isikolo ngeke sikhona kubasita bonke 81 kuvele kude lama resources but ke ukhanza ukuthi ngesupport baye basitakale ukuthi basupport ngelwati nangabe kukhona lokukhona basitakale. Sinaso sidingo lesikhulu ukuthi maybe sibe nefund la khona lo mfana athole startup ukuthi nasaphumile afunzile njengalosuka lana ngiseyo siyamati dedication yakhe athi nasafika le ngaphandle kanze isimo singasikahle but usitholile skill ngoba maningi lama skills labawafunzako bakhathi icathulo bakhathi insipho bakha konke lokho. So kungaba kahle kakhulu kube kuthiwa besingaba naleyo fund whereby athole leso startup capital singabi ukuthi imali but le raw material ukuthi aphume akhone ukuchubeka asebenze. So ke siyakubona vele ukuthi siyabasita labanye kukhanzakala ukuthi njengoba esatiwa ngezinto letinengi sekufika loyo umuntu loyo ufuna umntwana lo kaso longakhona kumentela lo kaso khanza ukuthi vula masango yamlanza lo mntwana loyo isho ukuthi nanga asitakale.
Okay, no, ngiyavala sibakhulu Nkosi siyayibongela kakhulu team yakho. Sisame ukuthi indawo kuchubeka futhi nisebenzisane kahle going forward. Mkelisa utivele ukuthi na robotic gadget le sebentako as a CCTV letakhona ukuthatha mhlambe lawo ma movements ma motions kude ukukhona ukugwemakale bucala. Let's take a break nasibuya sa traffic update.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide, At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Athunze silemukele sitawubuka isimo semgwaqo na Constable Ntombenhle Mntola sikuvusele kuhambeka kanjani lo mhlekuseni
Sakati ngivusele naye umbukeli wekusile breakfast show imigwaqo elivela kangwane sesihlolile nanamuhla imigwaqo leminengi iyahambeka kepha ikhona leyo lesemandi lesikhuthaza bona abashayeli basayisebenzisa ukuthi banake ikakhulukati litubane kwatise ukuthi ngilo leliya elibe sikhinyabedo nangabe umgwaqo umandi nasemigwaqweni ke leyo lede litiyela kuletinye tindzawo vele solo kuyashelela kuletinye tindzawo kunelusaka lolunengi bashayeli bayakhuthazwa nakhona lapho ukuthi banakisise nangabe shothi umuntu usowungenile khona lapho noma kukhona emanyukela noma emawukela lakhona sisente siqiniseko ukuthi umuntu uhamba yedwa ayiceze leyo nzima leyo bangaze baphambane ekhaya ngoba lokho ugcina kwenta ukuthi babe sebayashayisana kani engcenye umuntu bekade ukhona ukuthi aphumelele nje asibeketelelane sisahamba kuleto tindzawo leto letingathi inesikhinyabedo sekushelela khona emadolobha elivela kangwane sesiwahlolile tibane temgwaqo tiyasebenza tonke ngalokufanele nemigwaqo lengenela kuwo lamadolobha iyahambeka kude longakanani lesingavikela yena umbukeli umgwaqo lomkhulu losuka eNgwenya uye khona kaManzini lokufaka eKhathi naye eMalagwane unetinkhungu nyalo ekseni kepha adisito letingakanani sithi nje bashayeli abakhanyise emalambu lamakhulu baphindze futhi balinciphisa litubane nabakhuphuka noma behla Malagwane ngoba kunemakona lacijile kulomgwaqo kanti futhi nyalo ekseni unako kusheleshelela sithi nje abanakisise bashayeli basawusebenzisa lo mgwaqo uyavama ukuthi nangabe umandi ube netingoti letinengi kakhulu eKhathi edolobheni kumathapha sihlolile nakhona kude lokungakanani lesingakubika kanti-ke emadolobheni lamakhulu-ke ikakhulukazi idolobha laseMbabane nalo la kaManzini ngetithuba tasemini linani lebantu labahamba ngetinyawo kanye netimotolo kulamalanga libonakala liphakeme kakhulu bayakhuthazwa nje bashayeli basashayela eKhathi emadolobheni ukuthi banakisise kakhulu abantu abahamba ngetinyawo nebantwana siyababona linani labo liphakeme khona emadolobheni ukuthi nje asishayeleni ngalokukhulu ukukhophelela sinakane kuze ukuthi siphephe lo munye umgwaqo lesihlolile ngumgwaqo loya enhlangano lo kusuka lapha kuTebetebe uyawufika lapha kumehlwabovu lo mgwaqo lapho uyalungiswa noma ke uyakhiwa lokukhona ke kuletinye tindzawo selifakiwe lelitiyela kanti emalayini asengadwetshwa lo mgwaqo loyo ngumgwaqo lothanda tinkungu kakhulu ngisho nasemini nangabe lina litulu ukhanza vele ivalile imbonyile nakutela malayini kuba nebulukhuni bashayeli ukuthi bashayele lapho kanti-ke nasewutawuqala yena amehlwabovu lisengafakwa lapho letiyela lo mgwaqo unelukhethe nawuhamba kulolu khethe lo iyevakala le moto ukuthi ayihlali kahle phasi nje bashayeli abalinciphise kakhulu litubane nase batawukhuphuka noma behla nehlwabovu ukuze ukuthi baphephe ngale kwaloko Msakati naye umbukeli imigwaqo elivela kangwane iyahambeka ngaphandle nje kwalesi sesishido sikabedo ngaba kusela yena umbukeli lusuku loluhle naloluphephile basetawusebenzisa yona imigwaqo elivela kangwane
Mbiko lomhla ekseni imbukeli asibahlolela emakethe nasibuya sithatha tindzaba tesingisi
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news,
We bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is the English news. The Deputy Prime Minister Kusile has asked Eswatini to come together and help the government mobile support for hailstorm affected Eswatini. The Deputy Prime Minister says some of the heat Eswatini are struggling to make ends meet.
Some parts of the Kingdom of Eswatini were hit by a hailstorm last week Friday, leaving a trail of damage in cars, structures and fields. The Deputy Prime Minister Kusile has asked for Eswatini to collaboratively mobilize support for hailstorm-impacted Eswatini.
Lokho kubambisana bengicela ke nekusho ukuthi akhona ke Maswati le kusukela uma eva lombiko abona kumedia ukuthi kwendekene lamanye athi cela kunikela ngemathayeli labanye bathi sifuna ukufika khona sibone ukuthi singasita kuphi nyalo nje NDMA ucoordinator konke lokho umoya lomuhle lo eMaswatini ukuthi ngamunye wethu masivelelwe sehlakala singahlali ibhek sithi uhulumende utakwenda kepha uma sibambisana ukhombisa iunity so bengingacela nje la ngoba thina sicashwe ngilabantu laba lebalinyalele noma nje sengiloko culture linye uthenga thayela linye kutakwakha incumbi yemathayela sikhona ukuthi laba lokungavuthi lutho uhulumende ke so uyakhona ke naye kungeda ngoba lo monakalo awukho emathayeleni kuphela lo mnyango ngathi mina ngawuthenga iglass.
The National Disaster Management Agency reports that over 5,000 Eswatini were affected by the hailstorm. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Zimuva Shongwe Manzini.
The Deputy Prime Minister Kusile has encouraged Tinkhundla elected officials to work collaboratively towards the socio-economic development of the country. The DPM was speaking during the induction of the officials in a meeting that was also attended by the Minister of Tinkhundla, Sikumbuzo Dlamini.
The Administration and Development has hosted a day-and-a-half induction conference for Tinkhundla elected officials. Speaking when officially opening the meeting, the Deputy Prime Minister Kusile said Tinkhundla elected officials are key to the country's socio-economic development.
Njalo kusiphokophele ukuthi lelive leli wonke umuntu abese ezingeni lelisetulu aphila kamnanzi uma ngikubuka nako ngiyekela lelive litawufika njani lapha banyenti bantwana teenage pregnancy iletulu namuhla ke ngibeka licala thine sonke ungaba buchopho ungaba indvuna yenkundla ungaba ngu-MP ungaba ngu-minister ungaba ngubabe lonjanjani emangweni asikubambeni sonke kanye sikwekhude siphindze futhi labantwana sibadvonse sithi masiya enkundleni sifike ukuthi i-program of action yethu nayo lenzawo yethu la imiphakathi lengaka sesinebantwana laba drop out of school leni.
The Minister of Tinkhundla Sikumbuzo Dlamini assured Eswatini of improved service delivery.
First world ayisiko khashana idude kakhulu kulokuthi wonke umuntu ufuna sentele kufanele sizasethembise ngemlo DPM lokuthi nathi silitiko letinkhundla sizakwenda konke vele kusemandleni lokuthi le first world bayibone bayiphathe labantu lamaswati la sithume umsebenzi atayiphatha le first world ngokuthi simisele lama services labafuna kwalabantu efike ngesikhathi lekube abeduze nabo.
Manzini Regional Administrator Prince Gija echoed the minister's remarks on collaboration.
Tinkundla tisho kunye. Tinkundla tisho kudevelop. Sikanye kanye kungasali namunye ngemuva. Tinkundla tisho ukuthi sibambane silekelelane.
The Minister of Tingundla is yet to host the second leg of Tingundla elected officials induction workshop under the Manzini region. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Zimova Shongwe, Manzini.
South Korea has donated 190 laptops and 35 multifunctional printers to the University of Eswatini. Accepting the donation was the Minister of Education, Owen Ngumalo, who thanked the government of South Korea, stating that laptops will help the university as it has now introduced blended learning where students need to use technology.
South Korea's ambassador says the relations between Eswatini and South Korea spans for over 55 years. He states that they will continue supporting the country in different sectors.
I'm very pleased to note that the relations between our two countries have continued to deepen since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1968. And this year marks 55 years of cooperation and friendship.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Polile Shakantu, says the laptops and printers will play a major role in advancing information and technology programs at the university.
Eswatini would like to appreciate the kind gesture that we continuously receive from you, and we acknowledge the critical and important role that ICT plays in the attainment of its political and socio-economic development.
The Minister of Education, Owen Ngumalo, has thanked the government of South Korea for the donation. He says with the university having introduced blended learning, the equipment will be of great help.
Noma le donation setithelo debudlelwane lobukhona evela seSwatini nesevela seSouth Korea. Siyethemba lokuthi lama laptops atawu improve kufundza kwebafundzi lapha e-university.
According to the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Justice Twala, the university has about 8,000 students and just over 2,000 laptops. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Matsapa.
The Minister of Commerce, Mangoba Khumalo, has applauded the Republic of China and Taiwan for tirelessly supporting different sectors in Eswatini, which has seen the growth of entrepreneurs. Khumalo was speaking at the Royal Villas on Monday when closing Stage 1 of the capacity building project for microfinance focusing on grassroots women in Eswatini, which has been supported by the Republic of China and Taiwan.
The project started in November 2020 and has benefited over 6,000 women who have been skilled in financial literacy and being entrepreneurs, amongst other skills. Speaking during the closing of Phase 1 of Kusile project, the Minister of Commerce, Mangoba Khumalo, applauded the Taiwan Embassy for educating grassroots women in Eswatini.
The project has also played a major role during the celebration of International Women's Day and Mother's Day, where it made sure that the rural women equally participated and were educated on the themes for the past 3 years. This showed that the project had rural women at heart. The exposure of the rural women to such a celebration widened their scope and were made aware of the human rights and updated on contemporary issues surrounding the livelihood of women and their plight.
Taiwan Ambassador Jeremy Liang says they want to ensure that they empower women in Eswatini, especially grassroots women and rural women.
The main object of the project was to empower the women at the grassroots level with knowledge and skills on entrepreneurship management. It also aimed at improving access to quality financial services for the women. From the presentation on the impact of the project, it has been revealed that the Phase 1 of the project focused on the building capacity amongst the women and the rural circles. This was done so as to prepare the women and the circles for the phase 2, which we will focus on making credit available for establishment and recapitalizations of the women businesses.
On another note, Minister Khumalo then launched Stage 2, which will focus on mentorship, called Subatsamage. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kiani Msibi. Let's move Ashongwe at the Royal Villas Ezulwini.
The Senate President Lindiwe Dlamini has announced sessional committee chairpersons before the House. The Senate also voted for chairpersons for portfolio committees.
When the Senate resumed its parliamentary business on Monday, Senate President Senator Lindiwe Dlamini announced before the House chairs of the sessional committees.
Administration and Development imbonga ombane wosicokoma bese kulo committee two nitakhumbula ukuthi imbonga babe Chief Mathe uwavakashela bonke lawo ma-comment. Bese committee 3 we now have Ministry of Education and Training imbonga babe Chief Jozani Mazia, and then the Ministry of Public Service imbonga babe Chief Zabeni Shiba, the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs, imbonga Elmosa Mvoti, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, imbonga Lizinkosi, the Ministry of Defense, yes, Ministry of Defense, imbonga Skombeni Dlamini, the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, imbonga Umbane Ngosi Ngenge Dlamini. Bese kuthi litiko la agriculture imbonga Fezeka Dlamini. Again, we have a member who loba ku onke lama committee imbonga Engosikati Lamavimbe. Ngathi ngilawo imbonga ema committees, committee 1, 2 and 3 less now.
The Senate also elected and voted for chairpersons for the Senate portfolio committees. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza, Parliament.
Governments and different organizations who are in the forefront in the fight against gender-based violence say the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence was a success and saw people reporting different forms of abuse, and stakeholders as well as government were able to reach quite a number of people during the 16 days.
The 16 days of activism against gender-based violence started on the 25th last month till the 10th this month. Government and organizations were discouraging any forms of violence which had become a norm in Eswatini. They say the 16 days had been a success.
We saw quite a number of people standing up. We had a campaign by the police, various organizations, including the media. So that was really quite impressive. Even also as an organization, we had lined up a number of activities, including dialogues, including sessions for couples, plus a lot of other things.
The level of solidarity that we have seen amongst organizations, government, corporate sector, communities, individuals, everyone standing up against gender-based violence.
The data that we have reflects that we have received 974 cases that were reported just from the 25th of November until the 10th of December. And out of these cases, there were 424 that were reported by male survivors, and about 451 that were reported by female survivors through the Swaga toll-free line. From the received report from the toll-free line is to mention is that we are seeing men also coming forward to report cases of violence that happen among them.
They agreed on one accord and one voice that this should be a 365 days practice, not only during this time of the year. For Eswatini TV News, I am Kian MCB, Babane.
Residents of Ezulwini have been trained on ways to protect themselves against different crimes, including cybercrime, which seems to always be on the rise during the festive season. The Chief Executive Officer, Matogoza Shongwe, says crime has a potential of negatively impacting the economy, even if it happens in cities.
We want to alert residents to be, alert in terms of how they take care of their own safety. We've brought in people who deal with security, various forms of security, from cybercrime, cybersecurity, to crime which happens within the banking sector, and also within the houses. Are you protected? Are you sure that if you go out on holiday, is your house safe?
Nokuthula Hlophe, Eswatini Communications Commission's cybercrime manager, says they sensitize the public on cybercrime.
We go to the communities to teach the elderly about what to do as they use their online media platforms or their mobile wallets. And we also talk to everyone. Actually, we've got a radio channel. We talk to everyone about what is happening, the trends, the current trends, and we try to let people know about the law that exists, which is our Computer Crime and Cybercrime Act of 2022. And we're teaching people about the crimes that are on that act and how they may find themselves on the wrong if they don't follow.
A resident of Ezulwini, Muzi Masugu, says the training has given him knowledge on how he can protect himself from different crimes.
Armed patrol isisita kanganani, the level to which they're actually effective in assisting us to curb a crime.
He further states that he fully understands that he has a role to play in ensuring that his personal information is safe so that it cannot be used for crime purposes. In an effort to combat cybercrime, the Ministry of Information, Communications and Technology has enacted the Computer and Cybercrime Act of 2022, which has stipulated fines of up to 10 million emalangeni, depending on a crime committed. For Eswatini TV News, Nakuswendla Ngamandla, Nothile Sithole and Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
In international news, battles raged across Gaza on Sunday as Israel indicated it was prepared to fight for months or longer to defeat the territory's Hamas rulers, and a key mediator said willingness to discuss a ceasefire was fading. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, called on Hamas militants to abandon the fight. Hamas, in response, said no more hostages would be freed from Gaza unless its demand for the release of Palestinian prisoners is met.
As the war in Gaza continues into its third month, Khan Yunis has found itself directly at the epicenter. Fierce clashes erupted here once again on Sunday as Israeli tanks ventured into the center of the enclave's biggest southern city. Here, the bodies of Palestinian victims are constantly pulled from the wreckage of Israeli strikes.
We got married 6 months before the war, and today he is dead. He left me alone.
In central Gaza, mourners gathered outside the Al-Aqsa hospital for a mass funeral after an Israeli bombardment repeatedly hit the town of Zuwayda throughout the day.
Here in this house, we found a young man dismembered, just body parts, and we found this woman, who is the owner of the house, on top here, in pieces, and a column above filled with blood and body parts.
Violence, meanwhile, continued in the north of the Strip on Sunday, in Gaza City, Jabalia, and Shijaiya, where the IDF claimed a series of arrests. Those efforts were praised by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who called on Hamas to abandon the fight.
In the past few days, dozens of Hamas terrorists have surrendered to our forces. They're laying down their weapons and turning themselves in to our heroic soldiers. This will take time. The war is still ongoing, but it's the beginning of the end of Hamas. I say to the Hamas terrorists, it's over. Don't die for your leader Yahya Sinwar. Surrender now.
Israel's military claimed it struck more than 250 targets over the past 24 hours, including a Hamas military communications site and underground tunnel shafts in the south. In response, Hamas said no more hostages taken on October 7th would leave alive unless their demands were met for Palestinian prisoners to be released.
Hundreds of thousands of residents in Gaza desperately await food and medical supplies as the UN called for a humanitarian ceasefire in the region. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said that 100 trucks carrying humanitarian supplies entered Gaza from Egypt on Sunday. a number well below the daily average of 500 truckloads, including fuel, that entered every working day prior to October 7th.
A convoy with flour arrives at last to central Gaza. Residents here have been desperate for any kind of food delivery.
I have come and returned empty-handed since Wednesday. I was spending the night outside the centre's gate amid the bombing. It's very difficult suffering. I'm not able to buy for my children. They haven't eaten bread for a while.
On top of the strict blockade over the enclave, the local agriculture sector is devastated. Farmers cannot access their fields. The UN and countless leaders and officials say a ceasefire is the only way to alleviate people's suffering. Many criticize not only Israel, but also the U.S. for blocking a UN Security Council resolution forcing Israel to halt its offensive on Hamas. The World Health Organization gathered on Sunday to back a motion demanding that new medical teams enter Gaza.
I deeply regret that the Security Council was unable to adopt a resolution on such a ceasefire last Friday.
In Qatar, Gaza was at the heart of the first day of the 21st Doha Forum.
We strongly condemned the terrorist attack against Israel on the 7th of October. At the same time, we do not believe it's acceptable to use this event for collective punishment of the millions of Palestinian people.
Host Qatar, a key mediator between Hamas and Israel, said it is working on a new truce, which would ideally include a release of the hostages Hamas is holding in Gaza.
UN leaders on Monday urged an end to obstruction hours before a deadline for a deal at a climate summit in Dubai, as oil producers resisted historic calls for the world to wind down fossil fuels. Returning to the summit, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said it was time to go into overdrive to negotiate in good faith and rise to the challenge. He said negotiators at the COP28 summit in particular must focus on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and climate justice.
Less than 48 hours left to arrive at a deal. COP28 President Sultan Ahmed Al Jaber turned to traditional Emirati methods to spur negotiators to consensus. Expressing fear that the COP28 summit might end without an agreement, Al Jaber on Sunday convened a majlis, a gathering in which participants sit in a circle and try to resolve differences.
Time has come for all parties to constructively engage and to come to me with that language. I want everyone to show flexibility, to act with urgency, and to find the common ground we as COP28 presidency have asked for.
Unlike most of the big group sessions, the Majlis was closed to the public and media. The success of the COP28 hinges on whether participants can agree on what to do about fuels such as oil and coal that are causing climate change. During the Majlis, Saudi Arabia voiced its opposition to any phase-out or phase-down of fossil fuels. Iraq was more direct, saying that it was against any mention of global fossil fuel consumption targets. Nonetheless, a German representative said Saudi Arabia and Iraq were made aware that the supermajority of the world disagreed with them.
Therefore, they obviously felt they needed to engage, whether it was a bit of panic, whether it was a bit of realization of how far the discussions are.
The future of fossil fuels is not the only sticking point. Developing countries maintain that richer countries, who have been largely responsible for climate change, must pledge funds to help them adapt to it. The money would not only be used for transitioning to green energy, but also for building infrastructure such as storm warning systems or flood-proof bridges.
Concern over human rights is growing as the French Parliament is set Monday to discuss a controversial immigration bill reform. Undocumented migrants in France may soon face a restriction in access to public health care and expulsion.
Concern is growing here at this office of an organisation that helps undocumented migrants. The immigration bill has sparked fears, particularly with its threat to scrap state medical aid, a scheme which provides free healthcare to undocumented migrants.
I have my son who's 4 years old and he's covered by me. It's useful for his care because he has a genetic condition that requires long-term follow-up.
As I'm a bit frail, I'm often in hospital, in the emergency room. State medical aid has helped me get to care in hospital, to go to doctors and get prescriptions and everything.
NGOs have denounced how medical aid has been politicised. They fear the impact that axing the scheme will have on public health and the consequences for its 466,000 beneficiaries.
We're making public health meaningless, and we end up with people who come to us in poorer health, in need of greater care, which will require more nursing staff and more financial resources.
On a first reading, the Senate voted to do away with the scheme. Professor Pellicello has contested the move by launching a petition.
In just a few days, in 2 days in fact, we had 3,500 signatures, so that's what we published. We have 1,000 more who have said that they would be willing to sign on the spot. It's our duty. It's part of the Hippocratic Oath to care for all people without being selective.
According to the French social security system, the scheme is generally well managed. It cost €968 million in 2022.
Hong Kong's first district election saw a turnout of 27.5%, the government said on Monday, a record low for a race that had shut out all opposition candidates. China has barred pro-democracy candidates from entering the race this year, reserving the ballot for patriots.
Of Hong Kong voted Sunday in the region's first district council election since the 2021 election overhaul. The turnout, however, proved to be a record low. Only about 28% of eligible voters chose to participate. This year, China barred pro-democracy candidates from participating, reserving the ballot for patriots, those vetted by authorities in Beijing. Voters who chose to participate were unfazed by the new system.
I don't think it's influencing who I choose. I still feel that I have the freedom to vote for whoever I want.
District councils are the last remaining major political bodies to be chosen by popular vote. Following legislative changes in July, the proportion of directly elected seats dropped from about 90% to about 20%. During the last elections in 2019, turnout was also a record, a high of 71%. Many of the winners came from pro-democracy parties, but since Beijing imposed a national security law in 2020, most of them have been imprisoned or fled the country. Hong Kong's chief executive lauded the banning of non-Beijing approved candidates.
From now on, the district councils will no longer be what they were in the past. Platforms to destroy and reject the government's administration, to promote Hong Kong's independence, and to endanger national security.
A small pro-democracy activist group had planned a tiny protest outside the polling station where Lee had voted, but 12,000 police had been deployed through the region to prevent disruptions. Police took the demonstrators away before they could begin their protest.
Lawmakers and parents are blaming social media platforms for contributing to mental health problems in young people. A group of U.S. states is suing the owner of Instagram and Facebook for promoting their platforms to children despite knowing some of the psychological harms and safety risks they pose.
33 U.S. states are suing Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, for the social media platform's alleged harm to children's mental and physical health.
In seeking to bolster profits, Meta has repeatedly misled the public about the substantial dangers of its products. It has concealed the ways in which Instagram and Facebook exploit and manipulate its most vulnerable consumers, teenagers and children.
Attorney Matthew Bergman filed earlier social media cyberbullying cases that are now part of the multi-state lawsuit. He says social media platforms are dangerous for young people, less because of their content and more for the way they're designed to promote addiction.
The algorithms are explicitly designed to maximize user engagement, not give kids what they want to see, but give them what they can't look away from. It subjects them to material that they're not looking for, that makes them hate the way they look, hate their bodies, that encourages them to take risky behavior.
For its part, Meta says it offers some 30 tools and resources to help teens safeguard their privacy and well-being, including protections against unwanted contact.
So when an adult tries to message a teen who doesn't follow them, they'll see a notification letting them know that messaging the teen isn't an option.
Critics say the social media giant could be doing more, but chooses not to. And the consequences eventually catch up with everyone, even those who worked at Meta.
My 14-year-old daughter joined Instagram. She and her friends began having awful experiences, including repeated unwanted sexual advances, harassment. She reported these incidents to the company, and it did nothing.
Not all research supports the alleged correlation between social media platforms and damage to young people's mental health, says Wellesley College's Linda Chamaraman.
There's studies that show that there's benefits to social media use, and there's also studies that show there's no association whatsoever between your well-being and your social media use.
Chamaraman says her research with young people shows they want more choice when it comes to online experiences.
They knew that there were these algorithms that were trying to get their attention at no matter what, and they wanted to train the algorithm. They didn't want to say, get rid of the algorithm. They wanted to say, you know what? I want you to make sure that you do show me the things that I want to see.
In a separate legal action, Meta is suing the Federal Trade Commission to stop it from reopening a 2020 privacy settlement that included Meta paying $5 billion in fines for privacy violations. The federal agency says Meta has failed to fully comply with that settlement and is seeking changes to an agreement that prohibits it from profiting on data collected from users under the age of 18.
In our sports news, the Eswatini Chess Association President Dumsani Msibi says playing the Eswatini Open will give local players the necessary exposure in competing with international players. Msibi was speaking during the games that were attended by some international countries in Manzini. The head coach of the girls under-15 team, Tami Dlamini, says when they go for the schools games in Zimbabwe for SADC schools development will be their objectives. Ngomo was speaking during the team's training session at the Technical Center in Lobamba. We've come to the end of our English Bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Let's leave you with the weather.
i-boiled beef ngalapha lema-salad beetroot ayisali bese sekuba nema-takeaway bese kuba khona lo mkhanza sekaphethe 6 wema-takeaway.
Right person's head when they come across a black cat or an owl.
A wingman is basically your friend who helps you, like if you're trying to get with somebody, your friend is gonna help you start a conversation.
I won't lie to you, this guy's cheaters, all of them.
ukuthi solo unathi ehlelweni shilo kena siqala ihlelo ukuthi sitawukhulumisa indzaba lenkhulu ye-Human Rights 75 Initiative. Let's take United Nations together. Let's rejuvenate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, demonstrate how it can meet the needs of our time and advance its promise of freedom, which is equality and justice for all. Sifuna nje kubancane i-background yago. The rebirth often follows decimation, and so in the aftermath of World War II on 10 December 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, with everything happening in the world, geopolitically, politically, socially, there's never a moment, or rather there is a moment right now to rekindle the hope of human rights for every person. It is now. It is now, and this is the moment. We want it to last throughout 2023 and, forever. We are going into 2024. As we welcome you, Mage Nhlengetwa, first and foremost, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. But the world is sick, society is sick, it needs healing, and only all of us need to be responsible for that kind of healing. Sisakuvusela nje ehlelweni nang UN uthi ama human rights amcoka the 75th initiative. Ngabe uthini wena?
Angivusele Mnguni, ngivusele nasesiveni. Nasi silibandla la human rights, public administration and integrity. Nasi sivuma leyo ngoma sithi yebo ingiyo kumcoka kusisivuselele bungithi bethu sibandvu. Sivuselele buntu bethu, sivuselele nekwati ukuthi sonke sididalwa taNkulunkulu.
Indzaba lenkulu ke ngifuna singene kuwo lamalungelo. Ngifuna kubuka kakhulu maybe nje asasiqale geopolitically ngamabomu, what is happening in the world, maybe what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, and also what is happening in the Gaza Strip. It's gut-wrenching. The lives that are being lost, the violations of human rights. Lesiwa bonago. The world is trying to intervene, but we see it here, and some days we feel like and then something just happens and it's exacerbated. It is a worry because we also feel the effects, as the world, and as Eswatini, we are seeing the prices, the inflation, all of it, my effects are. How do we really find a solution to this? I mean, we are seeing what the United Nations is doing and, other organizations, the humanitarian aid, the medical aid. What is the solution to this? What role can we play? Maybe at this point,
yes. No, teka yona Mnguni, ngiyo. Shothi nje lengingakusho noma lesingakusho thina silibandla le malungelo ukuthi asesiphinde sibuyele emva ngokumbe lemvuselelo lesinayo lamhla yalokubuketa lo shothi lokujabulela lo 75 years kwahlala phasi siphinde sibukele inhlakanipho yalabo bebahlede ngaleso sikhathi bebabuka indzaba le bethi kanjena lapha khona impilo yemuntu sekude ukuthi singayihlonipha kubulala umuntu kubungazuthi nje ubulala kumbe inthuthwane nayo asisafuni nayo ukuthi ibulalo. So impilo yemuntu asikhumbutaneni singemaswati, asikhumbutaneni singumhlaba ukuthi impilo yemuntu imcoka, impilo yemuntu ayisiyo yethu yemnikati wayo. So yebo kona sitawuhamba emhlabeni kodwa kumcoka ukuthi ngithi ngihambe ngendlela lekahle lenekuthobeka lenesimilo lesikahle angathi singabheka kanjani with dignity. So it's important ukuthi ku-impresswe indzaba yokuthi yebo batalidzinga lusito lwekudla kodwa kude longakuthola loku replace impilo yemuntu. So basically ibe bengevakala kumhlabeni wonke ngaba ukuthi bekunene asikhumbule ukuthi saphiwa ingqondo yekucabanga, saphiwa ingqondo yekubeketelelana, saphiwa nengqondo yokuthi sibone kuhlukanisa lokubi nalokuhle. Lo kwendakalako njena singasho ukuthi akusiko lokuhle.
Yeah. Sisekulelo le kwekuthi impilo yomuntu imqwa kangakanani ukuthi asihloniphane nemalungelo ethu. Linyevale elikhulu kakhulu, and I think mabom nje ngisho ukuthi kule fourth quarter eminyaka wa 2023 lapha ekhaya, what we've seen is the prevalence of high rates of gender-based violence, particularly on women. It has been a concern for the longest time because we know that even historically, Swazi women have faced high rates of gender-based violence, including femicides, rape, violence, gonke. Kodwa lesikubone kunayi fourth quarter eminyaka wa 2023 kuye kwalandzelana ema-headlines emaphephandabeni for at least 4 days. Gut-wrenching, shaqisa ligogo. And these are violations of human rights, and you know, there has been a conversation even on social media. Gender-based violence doesn't necessarily focus on women alone, but what we have been seeing is the marginalization of women has been rather on a higher level as compared to that of men. And so the 16 days of activism really was speaking to, you know, let's protect the girl child, let's protect our women. How do we fix this problem? What is the problem? Ngabe nanikbuka nine from microscopes and emahovisi nithi into lesingayisombulula kanjani nayo?
Yeah, siyabonga. Vele iyethusa lento lesibona kuyendeka. Bantu bakwatile. Asati ukuthi kwendekani. Kodwa ke ngekubuka kwethu mase sihlala sibuka ngoba yebo kona kuthinza bomake kakhulu. Kodwa nalabantu abethu laba bafana nabo babe nabo bayathinzeka. So lesikubukile mase sihlala sibonisana silovisi ungasi sekufe le fabric kufe lesekelo. Mase kufe lesekelo ke kusho silensika lekhona lelikhaya ngilo lelesisola lokuthi ungazi usekonakele kakhulu. EmaSwati bekathi noma ungangixosha ngeke ungedlulise ekhaya. Kodwa nyalo sesibona ungazi ukuthi ingakusasiko. Incumbi yemakhaya akusesiwo lamakhaya kumbe lebeSwati. Manje mali ifile lengqongwane kufele insika kude likhale litaba khona. Sibuka ke kutheni kutawufuna sihlale phansi silibandla. Sisebenzisana nalabanye laba kulomsebenzi lesiku. Sesibuke sihambe siyele phasi emakhaya siyobuka lokho bambamba lele sikusola ukuthi konakele ngekoyini. Bese sekuba khona ke nokuthi singakhona ukuthi sifundzise ngaleti ndzaba leti kuphila ngoba emalungelo akuphila kwemuntu. Sibuye leti misweni tethu ngoba utawuya njani empini ungadadi nawe kusumbani. Lokunye lesesikubona ukuthi ukhanze ukuthi matendeka letehlakalo tenteka kunebantwana labakhona makakhona lo mfana ubuka lento lempilo lephila kola ekhaya acansi ngiyona mpilo ucansi mangabe kufuna kutholakala into kufuna memede atazayithole ke lo mnya jikjele baye basibelungu jikjele ama toys akho wakhokha ku court uthi wena ufuna kwendekelo lokufunwa nguwe. Letinye tigameko sitibonile tendeka emehlweni ebantwana. Labatatiko leti tetingcondo bathi uyayithatha lo mfana noma lo muntu into leyenteke yababhlungu kakhulu empilweni yakhe ayithatha ayibekele ngemuva. Kodwa kusho kusilendzaba leyo iphelile. Kusho kusilendzaba mzane ivuka ikuyovuka lesitesilwane lana hayi umuntu asakhumbula lobhlungu lobendeka empilweni yakhe asemncane atibona abona ungazi ukuthi live lalingakamnaki ngaleso sikhathi. And mayise yendeka lendzaba asisati sonke naye akasati kusikwakwendekene. Kusukwatiswe yini asati. So bese sekusiphindze kusibuyisa ekutheni ke kulethi khasita manje nalo mndeni sekude kuletinye tindzawo sekutawufuna ukuthi kube khona kumbe structures lesingaba nawo latawuthatha le ndzawo nekuthi ke ye family bese ke nalaba labavelelwe tigameko letithithe sibe netindlela leti tesimanje manje naletesintu lapha khona umuntu atawukhona lokuthi akabhoboke asho akhone lokuthi khulumela wena kusho sije kuye kuswa counseling sessions ngesintu. And-ke indzaba ye-counseling ayikubi nje i-event, kufune vele le ndzaba kube indzaba lesiyiphilako. And kungaba kukhutsata nje ukuthi tindzaba tengcondvo emaswati akatithathele etulo, ngoba sonke nje sihamba nje usimagobodo ungakhanza ukuthi nami kukhulu lenginako, kodwa kude ngalokuthi onke malanga silalela tindzaba letibhlungu tebantfu, onke malanga silalela tindzaba letibhlungu tebantfu, kude la ngifike nami ngithulule khona. So kumcoka lokuthi sibe khona la uthulula khona, and akusho ukuthi uyahlanya, kusho ukuthi nje vele lincane leli layini, kuyendeka ukuthi lamhla ucanisweni uyaphila kaze walimala la engcondvweni. Kodwa kangisho ukuthi loko ngolokubanga ukuthi bantu bahlukubedane, kude lesicabanga ukuthi ukuthi kungabanga kuhlukubeda. Kodwa-ke siyakhuthata lokhu vele ngaleyo kumbe kungaba ngilenye sisombululo, bese sekuba indzaba ukuthi sihleti nalabantu abethu lapha emakhaya abasebenzi, bafundzile abasebenzi, bahlalela-ke angadi kulamanye emakhaya, kodwa mina la ngihlala khona nakulamanye la ngingavakashela khona, bahlala la ku-social media labantu abethu, bangena elicingweni, ufike lize lishona umntwana akagezi nekugeza, solo ula ugeza nje makeva kusoyeda. So lala bakufundzako lapha kule social media, lokunye ukhanza ukuthi lokwenda lengcondvo yalo mntwana icabange lokukhulu, lokunye utibona naye angilomunye umuntu langasiye sekunalo kuthiwa ama-influencers. Bantu abethu sebathi bayasileya, ngikwadi-ke kusileya kumbe batangisita. So ufuna lo mntwana kuphile impilo langasiyo yona like ngalokuthi sathi mntwana ahamba esikolweni, wahamba umntwana, sathi mntwana utiphathe kahle, watiphatha kahle umntwana, hamba e-university, wa-university. So utendile tonke leti university sathi thina titamniketa impilo lekahle, kodwa akusendeki kanjalo. Nayo le ndzaba yokuthi sibenda njani abantu abethu le kakhulu le youth ukuthi batholele eminye imisebenzi noma bayathi sebenda, sibakhuthate lokuthi kube khona lokhu khona. Nalesikolweni ke labanye lekunye lesikubonile silibandla ukuthi le curriculum kuyadzinga nayo ukuthi seyike ilungiswe. Ukhona abantwana ukuthi bafunze into letawukhona kusheshe ibaphilise. So diningi letinto lesicabanga ukuthi tonakele, kodwa siyethemba ukuthi ngekubambisana nalaba labathinzekako emangweni kuhulumende nalabangekho kuhulumende, nani ningumsakati nihambisa tindzaba nisakata, sitalishumayela lelivangeli litawugcina kuvakala liwela sosi noma ungayifata lenhlanyelo kukhona la itawugcina iwele la kuvunze khona.
You touched on something lele ngikhanze interesting kakhulu ukuthi uyakhanza ukuthi lo muntu unyalo seyamhlupha lento labdzaleni engcenye wayithatha asesemncane, but labdzaleni akasasiko na aware ngoba into abengakhoni kuyikhuluma, so engcenye wayi-internalize so much so it has become yena seyinguye kwayona lento leyo. Engabe do we still have a solution for that? Can that person still reconcile maybe with all those traumas lese kangathi yena so wa-internalize wawaphinze wawenda i-personality yakhe lese kabe seke sekaphuma nyalo abangayinhlekelele?
Sinelithemba umkhulu ukuthi kude lokhu ngeke kwendeka, njengoba sishito nje sithi sibandfu uNkulunkulu wasakha kwehlukana, wasiniketa ingcondvo ecabanga. Kunebantu ke labafundisekile labatasisita kuleti ndzaba, labangasisita kuleti ndzaba tengcondvo. Lapho umuntu angamkhuthata uhulumende ukuthi sicela amane asithathele indzawo lethe caca, asitfolele la labangakhona ukuthi basiside kulolo hlangothi njengoba abantu kangaka nje diningi letingoni letikhona ngibekise nangetemfundo nakhona sicela ukuthi uhulumende kube nguye losihambele embili sibe khona sitomsita simsekele kuleti nhlelo takhe langatenda kubuke ukuthi ngikuphi lokhu lesicanga sikonakele kuleya yekulimala ingqondo kuyendeka kugcine kwendekile fanele awukhanza ukuthi lesi esikhathi thine lokwethu kumbe lelizinga lesinalo laba ama psychologists lisengefiki kumbe ezingeni letigameko lesihlangabetana nato ngemalanga ngoba lele sikhuluma ngawo nje awukhaza kusengilala bikiwe kukhona lele tingabikwa tindzaba.
Yeah, and I wish we had more time ngoba ngifuna ukuthi singene lokuthi engabe do we even have sufficient psychologists and are they accessible, are they affordable enough for everyone? All those situations I think they definitely need serious and urgent attention. But thank you so much for your time to Kusile Nhlengethwa, the Deputy Commissioner of Human Rights Administration and Integrity. Ngolomhla sibahla market tester kuyasichubela inhlelo.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
That climate change is increasing temperatures, particularly in cities, and anybody with a pre-existing condition, or if you are older, or if you have, for example, heart disease, unfortunately, you're more likely to get sick when temperatures are very high, or even to die in extreme high temperatures. So that's a very direct effect. We also see the effects of climate change on the environment. So those increased temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns in some parts of the world are drying out the environment, drying out forests, making it easier to have more and stronger and more severe wildfires. Now, wildfires kill people directly. They also lead to massive levels of air pollution. And we know that air pollution is one of the biggest killers we have. Kills about 7 million people a year around the world, about a death every 5 seconds. So there are those more direct effects, but we also see climate change is making it easier to transmit infectious diseases carried by mosquitoes like malaria or dengue, or diseases carried in water, diarrheal disease, cholera and so on. But the ultimate impact of climate change is in actually making some parts of the world uninhabitable. So either it becomes too dry to maintain agriculture, or through increased sea level rise, we're actually starting to submerge islands, including some whole countries. And you can't really maintain good health when you're forcing people away from where they live.
So Dermot, talk to us about scenarios that we are staring at. How will our health systems, our hospitals, primary healthcare centers, the entire health infrastructure, how will we cope with these impacts of climate change on our health?
Well, the scenarios are not good news because, and we already know, we've already seen a glimpse of this. So those increased temperatures I was talking about, the record temperatures that we're now seeing around the world, in a couple of decades' time, those will be the norm. And so we've experienced record temperatures in Europe, we've seen heat waves across Asia, and we've seen directly people turning up overwhelming hospitals, and in some cases, in some of the historic events, even morgues overflowing with bodies. So unfortunately, that's part of the scenarios that we see for the future. We also see more of the world being suitable for malaria transmission or for dengue transmission. So we have to be able to respond to this. And we're unfortunately committed to a certain amount of climate change because of the greenhouse gases that have already been emitted. So we need to develop the plans and put into place the investments in our hospitals, in the training of our health workforce, in order to allow them to protect people from the impacts of climate change that we're already seeing. And part of preparing our health systems for the impacts of climate change is also making sure that they're resilient to the impacts of climate change. And in fact, in many cases, we can do two good things for the price of one by, for example, providing renewable energy through solar panels for healthcare facilities, which is more resilient to climate risks. It's cheaper, and it also reduces the environmental impact.
So, Dermot, these are very overwhelming scenarios that you've just painted. What can we do as individuals to cope and to protect ourselves in these future scenarios?
Well, the good news is there's a great deal that we can do, and part of it is just being aware of the health risks of climate change. So in the places that we live in Northern Europe, those populations have not previously been used to the kinds of temperatures that we've previously experienced. Now, if we know that it's a potential risk to your health if it's an extremely hot day, then it's possible to protect yourself by hydrating, by staying out of the sun, by paying attention to weather warnings. So we all as individuals have to become a bit climate smarter in order to protect our health. So that's number one. The second thing that we can do is that many of the things that are important to reduce climate change are really good for our health. And we actually say that the Paris Agreement to limit climate change is potentially the most important health agreement of the century, because if we are able to make a shift to a clean energy system, or even as individuals, if we're able to, for example, walk or cycle to work or school, or to improve our diet so that they're more sustainable and healthy, that's really good for the planet. But much more importantly and closer to home, it's really good for your health. It's not all on you as an individual. So one of the things we can do as individuals is to support policies and to support leaders who are able to make wise investment decisions that improve people's health but also protects the planet.
Thank you, Dermot. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
It's 1 minute before 8 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. Kanzi, if you've just tuned in, worry not, you can still watch this episode go YouTube page yethu Eswatini TV.